Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Mark De Jesus welcoming you to the healing and freedom journey. I am your host. I'm also a brother from another mother, bringing you insights that'll help you along the way in your healing and freedom journey, especially when it comes to mental, emotional, and relationship health. So if you're passionate about those things, you've come to the right place. And I'm praying that in all things, you'll sense and experience the love that God has for you and the grace of Jesus Christ that's available to you. But it is a journey in learning to experience the love of God more and more in each day and letting it have an impact on our mental and emotional health, letting it have an impact on how we do relationships. It is a journey in learning what the grace of Jesus Christ really means for our lives and learning to connect to it in empowering ways to help us to walk in greater fruitfulness. Now, one of the enemies that I've been talking about quite often, especially lately, is the enemy of toxic guilt. And I pray that as of late, you've been able to discern more and more how guilt often becomes a part of our lives and latches on to patterns that we live in that keep us from true freedom, that keep us from actually living an overcoming life and living victorious. And today I want to get into the compulsive aspect of guilt and what it does, how we often live compulsively. So today I'm going to talk about 12 guilt-based compulsions. Now, I'm going to explain what I mean when I say compulsion. I often use compulsion in teaching about OCD, certainly. So let's understand, what are we doing when we're living compulsively? When we're living compulsively, we are trying to do something under a sense of pressure to alleviate a disturbance within us. And guilt is a big one. We feel guilty. We feel we need to listen to the guilt, follow it, and the actions that we do can become compulsive, meaning we create cycles. Every time we feel this, I feel bad, we then act in a certain way. It can become addictive. It can become something we do. And if we don't do the compulsive act, then we feel like we can't live. We start having withdrawal symptoms. So these are ones that I've seen in my life, and I've seen in the lives of people I have helped. I'll give you 12 of them. We could certainly add a bunch more to this, but I kind of narrowed it down to this to give you an opportunity to be able to look at and understand, am I living compulsively to guilt? Or am I needing to step into the freedom of true love and be able to decide to love? Because when we live in guilt, we're always being pulled by guilt, almost like we're under duress, like something's manipulating us to then do this. Under love, we're led in by compassion, and that's a totally different arena, because now we have the ability to decide. We're not doing it just because someone's forcing us to. But here are some of the compulsive ways that we respond to guilt. And you look at this for yourself and see, am I living in this pattern? The first one is the performance checker. There's a lot of checking that goes on with guilt, and we start to live by guilt and we become programmed by guilt in a lot of ways. But when you're a performance checker, guilt links to performance-driven living. I have a lot of resources on performance-driven life. And guilt is always analyzing your performance and revealing where you fail. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. So you start to assess yourself critically on a regular basis. You're analyzing yourself from a performance-based perspective. Maybe it's how you walk with God. I don't do this well, I'm not doing that well, I don't do this well. You listen to it, you feed that, where you start going, well, I need to do better. So we're constantly trying to, in performance, be better. We're never getting to the heart of what's going on, so that we learn how to live from being loved. A lot of performance checkers, they're trying to live for love. That if I maybe do this, then someday I'll feel peace and I'll feel okay. So you're always assessing yourself. You're like the manager who's just leaning over the person they're managing, over their shoulder, just constantly assessing. And you see that your performance is not up to par. You're criticizing yourself, and you're leaving yourself stuck in that I feel bad syndrome. Now, if a manager at your job was over your shoulder, watching every move, we would say that manager's not a good manager. But we do this to ourselves all day long many times. And we become harsh critics, and then we go, "Ugh, I'm doing this terrible. I should be doing more. I should be doing more." And we should ourselves to death. And notice that what we manifest doesn't actually improve because we're being driven by a force of guilt that is being highlighted because of a performance checking lifestyle. The second one is you're an overanalyzer of self. Constantly analyzing your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions, and you're quick to judge them. So you become compulsive in looking inward, but not in a compassionate way. Because when you have compassion and you operate in compassion towards yourself, you don't stare at yourself all day. See, many people think that, this concept of being loving and compassionate to yourself means you're going to be selfish and you're staring at yourself all day. Nope. That's not love. But guilt will cause you to stare because you're always looking inward, going, what's wrong? So then you can, number 3, become an emotional fixer of yourself. You have a certain emotion. Maybe you're depressed, or maybe you're overanalyzing your inner life of how you feel. So then you're constantly going, stop feeling this way, stop feeling this way. You're trying to keep fixing how you feel inside versus shifting how you respond to how you feel inside. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're having a rough day, we then go harder on it and go into toxic guilt and even shame, and we self-reject, we get into self-hatred, instead responding with, all right, I'm having a tough day, it's all right. I'm learning. See, now we're becoming a compassionate witness to what's happening versus being an adversarial person to our own journey. Are you finding where you're always trying to fix yourself all day? I don't feel this, I feel this, my emotions off, my mood's off. You're like fixy. Does that really help improve your life? Or does stepping back and going, I'm going to be loving towards myself because I'm on a journey of learning here. Many of our compulsive behaviors, we have to actually starve to give ourselves room to actually learn and practice love and grace. Number 4, and this is a big category, I'm putting it into one point, but it branches into a lot of areas. This is the over-apologizer, the over-confessor, or the over-repenter. And I know these kind of hit into 3 different areas in life, but the over-apologizer is sorry to God, to people, or the confessor to God, to people, where you're constantly asking for forgiveness. And then there's the over-repenter to God and to people, where you feel like, the reason I'm not free is because I haven't repented enough. The reason I haven't is because I haven't. And so then you go into that motion, either over-talking it out to God, over-talking it out to somebody else, or apologizing, confessing, or repenting. I discovered this many years ago because I saw how much people were in a pattern of self-condemnation. I remember one of my first teaching series on this, I called it, Why Do I Struggle to Feel Free? That was the best way I could put it. And it was launching me into revealing how much condemnation, accusation, guilt, and shame have owned the airwaves in our thinking. And so we feel like we need to do more with God or with someone else to kind of help fix this. And then you notice you keep doing it. And so then I noticed this in my own life when I became a guilt confessor, where it wasn't just with God, it was with somebody else. And I couldn't feel any peace unless I made sure I got this thing out and I shared it. And I'm not talking about just like one thing in life or I'm talking about a chronic pattern where it starts repeating over and over and over again. Another one that becomes a repeater is a compulsive salvation repeater. I got to repeat the salvation experience. I have to make sure it's just right. I got to make sure, did I pray it just right? This one plagues a lot of scrupulosity and religious OCD battlers, and they feel they've got to get their salvation just right because there's this disturbance of guilt. They listen to it, they serve it, they obey it. And guilt keeps telling them, nope, it's still not good enough. Nope, it ain't enough. Nope, it ain't enough. So they feel the need to keep checking and fixing their salvation over and over again. A classic one, especially in today's day and age, is the researcher. So you feel bad about something, so you look up online, is this a sin? Did I do this? Did I commit this? You start taking your guilt and now you're researching it. At what point in a relationship does it mean that you're now looking to look at that subject? Problem is that you're probably moving into a guilt-based, and it could be you're looking at it through obsession and not letting the subject land in its place the way that it needs to. So do you find yourself researching, getting on your phone and typing in the sentence of whatever it is that you feel disturbed about, and you're trying to find the answer to it? It's compulsive activity. And then, of course, there is in your life, I talked about the emotional fixer. But let's talk about the OverFixer in life, where you're constantly looking at things you do, say, think, feel, and you're trying to edit, you're trying to fix, you're trying to redo, you're trying to go back into relationships and check. And maybe if I apologize one more time, maybe if I told them one more time, or maybe if I do this was something that really hindered my walk, because any relationship that I moved on from, or maybe it was toxic, I would be in this. Maybe if I just do that one more thing, maybe if I just go back and do that thing, or maybe if I just make a phone call, should I send that email? And I notice across the board, it did not improve my relationships. It actually, and sometimes made things worse. Number 8 is the OverPleaser. This is the people pleasing and the constant doing. How many of us, we step back and we honestly go, you know what? I do a lot of things to make people happy, and it's a guilt-based thing. It's codependency. I need to learn how to live from love, where I choose out of love to do something, not to try to make them feel better. So then I'm okay because I made you happy. That's a really bad and unhealthy connection to make. Do you find yourself in that pattern? And then number 9 is the reassurance checker. I feel this, I feel bad, so I got to go check with people to make sure that this thing is okay and lined up. And then we start over-talking it. We start over-talking the guilt we need. And we create a pattern now where I can't feel at peace unless I get this whole thing squared away, and I got to keep going after it and going after it and going after it. Now, the last few get into the nuts and bolts of some trenches that people really get stuck in, and their life is driven by this I feel bad, toxic guilt. One is the chronic SelfCondemned, where you always feel bad about yourself and your journey, and you are constantly disqualifying yourself. You are constantly going, and it translates into a lot of areas. My salvation isn't good enough. God's made me a reprobate. God's cast me away. I am forever damned. I am, we move into a place of self-suffering, where you latch onto this suffering life, where you're constantly self-condemned. Meanwhile, the grace and love of God is knocking at your door. But condemnation has taken over so much of your thinking, you become used to it. Number 11 is what I call the awkward grace dismisser, meaning if I want to really kick up a lifestyle based on guilt, if I want to really trigger it, then all I really need to do is give you an extravagant gift. Something you didn't earn, something you didn't even ask for. Maybe I give you a big stack of money, or I give you a possession, or just bless you. It brings out our guilt. First, we're overwhelmed, and then we feel bad, right? And we go, well, wait, Mark, if I get rid of this feeling bad, then I'm going to go into being entitled. That means I'm going to go, oh, thank you. I deserve this money. See how black and white we get because guilt has conditioned us to live so law and rule based. We don't see the beauty of what grace offers us when we are blessed in our life, in our journey. And so I find this constantly, where blessing comes someone's way and they reject it. They'll even say no to it. They'll push it back because grace is amazing. But at first, it feels awkward, because the goodness of God is overwhelming. The goodness and kindness and glory of God is overwhelming. And so it meets up against our conditioned unworthiness, our self-hatred, our self-rejection, all those things. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to work through the awkwardness? Okay, I feel awkward right now, but I'm going to work through it and learn to practice gratitude, because the shift into grace is actually cultivating gratitude, because gratitude acknowledges the preciousness of what has been extended to you. We acknowledge it, we say yes to it, embrace it, and we practice gratitude in that. It's guilt will want to keep us in a posture of not receiving the beauty of what God's bringing into our lives. And many live, number 12, this is a compulsive lifestyle, you're a self-punisher. You believe you need to be punished. You believe that you need to stay punished. And even when other people talk to you and share with you, God's grace is here, He's forgiven you, you say, no, there's consequences for these. It's punishment. You have a punishment-based mentality towards what you've done, towards what's happened in your life. Now, is there certain things that happen as a result of our choices? Yes, certainly. But God's grace is available to you today. His mercy is new every morning. His love is present. But these last three, the chronic self-condemned, the awkward grace dismisser, the self-punisher, we have to be aware of this, because no one can choose for you to move in a new direction. Only you can. And the way that we can begin to move in a new direction is by decision. I can make a decision today. I'm not going to keep living by the way that guilt is training my life. I'm going to move in a new direction towards grace, towards the love of God. And I'm going to start starving these compulsive behaviors and learn to work through my emotions where guilt I may be feeling it, but it's not going to own my life. And I'm going to practice thanking God and practice gratitude for all the blessings and the fact that in all my struggle, He sees me through gracious eyes. And I'm forever grateful for that. I pray this is a blessing for your journey. If it is, would you hit the like button, subscribe, and also go to markdejesus.com, where I keep the tribe updated on what's happening, what's going on, and share encouragement and let you know about things that are happening with new resources. If this blessed you, would you consider a one-time donation? Just go to markdejesus.com, click on that donate button, and it can happen very easily, or you can become a regular supporter on a monthly basis. Of course, I do deeper dives in my material with my healing and freedom community. Those of you that say, I want to make a deeper investment in my life and in my journey, you can take advantage of that today by going to my website and clicking on the community button. Well, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, this is your brother from another mother saying, I'll be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. But in the meantime, I'm out.